everybody on Thecrosstv. We are holding the press conference for today for the Republican candidates, talking about their results and what's going on in California. I start with Mrs. Michelle and Mrs. Jessica. Would you stand up and just introduce yourselves and also do the things that on your heart right now?
Joseph. First and foremost, we would like to start with our Pledge of Allegiance. If you can all rise, please, and place your right hand over your heart. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I'm Jessica Martinez, a candidate for District 56 Assembly District, and we have a prayer that we want to say today in honor of our veterans. And of course it went away. Okay, hold on. Okay. Dear Father, with grateful hearts, full of appreciation for their service and sacrifices, we thank you for our veterans. O God of all comfort and mercy, we ask you to wrap your loving, compassionate arms around those veterans who are suffering today from their times of service, whether it be physically, emotionally, or spiritually. Heal their broken bodies, hearts, and spirits today. Pour your healing balm into every crevice and area affected by war. Let your comfort flow through their hearts and minds, freeing them from the deep sorrow and losses they may have experienced in their military service to their country. We ask you to bless them. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen. You might be seated. You might be seated. Actually, we're going to start with the questions, and we start with introducing themselves, the people in the panel today and in the conference. And we are saying that we are not agree with whatever happening in the Republican result here. That's why we are here today. And I need them to introduce yourself. Please, starting from Paul Jones. Introduce.
I'm Paul Jones, candidate for California State Assembly District 62.
My name is Elizabeth Wong Ahlers, candidate for Senate District 25.
This is Daniel Dang. I'm a lawyer. I help campaign with outreach into the Chinese community.
Once again, Jessica Martinez, candidate for 56 Assembly District.
Liu, candidate for the 49th Assembly District.
And I am Michelle Martinez, candidate for California State Assembly District 41.
Thank you very much for introducing yourself. Right now, we have the people who have questions, and we're going to start the discussion and start also the press conference. And I start with from the left to the right, and I need them to introduce yourself first, say your name and your question. Go ahead.
I'm Carla Chung Reynolds. I live in Glendale. I'm going to ask you, are you satisfied with the election outcome? I wanted to ask all of your candidates.
I'm Paul Jones, and no, I'm not accepting the results thus far.
Elizabeth Wong Ahlers here, District 25. Election night last Tuesday, we were 10 points ahead, and it has just steadily decreased, but within the same margins as the other Republican candidates statewide. So this is very unusual, and I feel needs to be investigated. And so we will not concede this race until we have had opportunity to, or we will not concede this race because we need to have opportunity to investigate and postpone the certification if it's deemed necessary.
Oh, that's right. My name's Jessica Martinez, and I feel that somehow, somewhere, our election results are terribly flawed. Something is going on. It does not make sense that every single Republican candidate's numbers have dropped consistently since election night.
Long W, candidate for the 49th Assembly District. I was informed by quite a few voters and volunteers that they observed with their own eyes. What they observed was that a lot of times, like people, they would pick on the computer screen Trump, but when the ballot is not printed, Trump's name is not on there. So in the Trump, on the election night, Trump's percentage was less than 35%. So clearly something super weird and suspicious was going on. If they clearly did that to Trump, they could have done that to all the other Republican candidates in Los Angeles County. And the second, we also did our sort of own polling. We spoke to a lot of potential voters, and about 80%, at least 80% of them said that they would vote for Trump and me. But the results turned out to be very, very differently. So I think that to say the least, this election, at least in Los Angeles County, needs to be investigated.
I agree with the sentiments that you've heard here today. My name is Michelle Martinez, and first and foremost, I'd like to say thank you to you, all the voters that came out and participated in the election season. We also want to honor your vote. Although we have yet to finalize voting, this is an opportune moment for us to be able to really look into the anomalies that we see in our voting, not just in this election cycle, but in past election cycles. We have the advantage of looking at what happened in 2020 in comparison to 2016 and 2012. And there seems to be anomalies, and so what we would like to do is be able to honor your vote and have the opportunity to look at these voting records on a one-to-one basis to understand how they're being utilized, if they're coming in and out, whether there are deceased records. There are several different commentaries we've had from expert knowledge base that tell us there are dead voter polls. And so although we agree in fair elections and don't want to discourage you, we still want all of you to register to vote and continue to be part of this election process. I believe that the right thing to do is to honor your vote by taking the deep dive and understanding our election cycle completely.
Hello, my name is Lydia Miller, and I have a question for David. Why did Governor Newsom make the prevention of voter fraud illegal by signing SB 1174 into law?
Okay, that's a very good question. So the idea of the law, SB 1174, is that illegal voting seems like it's not illegal. Checking voter ID is illegal. So the law, SB 1174, in essence, is aiding and abetting of a crime. Especially given the fact that, since year 2020, there've been a lot of, saying that, the election process was tainted. And he still came up with the law saying that, checking voter ID is illegal as a practical matter. So in California, so it doesn't matter wherever you go. You go to Costco, you buy groceries, you want to see your ID. You get pulled over for speeding, they want to see your ID. And wherever you go, you need to show your ID, except for the most sacred process of all, election. no ID, not only no ID requirement, on top of that, basically checking IDs is illegal. So this is not just the nonsense. Basically, the way I see it, people maybe the governor is stupid. No, he thinks we are all stupid. That's why I filed a lawsuit against the Governor Newsom over SB 1174. So basically, that law not only allows illegal voting, it encourages illegal voting. So with that law in place, especially as a practical matter, like during this election, a lot of times voters, they would want to show, actually most voters, they have the incentive to show the staff at the voting station, this is my ID. Basically, they're trying to say, you know what, I'm not voting illegal. I'm a citizen. I live in the district. I have the right to vote. What happens is that not just on one occasion, pretty much everybody was telling me the same thing. The staff at the voting station, they'll be like, oh, don't show me that. No, they don't want to look at it. It's like all you have to do is just tell them your name and the year you were born in, not even the month and date. Then you can vote. So basically, what's going on is that anybody, as long as for instance, you can vote on behalf, for anybody, as long as you know their name, you know their year they were born. To be frank, if you want to go vote, you can tell them you're Donald Trump, right? Because you can look up the year Trump was born, Donald Trump. How do they know you're not? They can check your ID, right? So the whole thing was not just the sheer stupidity. Basically, that was a slap, not on the face of Californians, but on the face of our Constitution. Constitution is very clear. Voting is not just legal rights, but responsibilities for U.S. citizens. The Constitution is crystal clear for the governor, for Newsom, to sign SB 1174 into law. Basically, he's saying that's a direct attack on U.S. Constitution and on California Constitution and on America. So that's not acceptable. That's why I had to file a lawsuit against the governor, to do what is right. Yeah. So that's all.
That was good. Thank you very much. My name is Mark. I live in Alhambra. I have a question for Mr. Daniel, but I want to share a quick experience. When I was voting, the machine changed my vote, and it took me a while to change it, and it wouldn't let me go back. So my question to you is this. What do you think of the algorithms affecting the votes for the left side getting the most votes? And can we do anything about that to change that in the now or in the near future?
Very good question. As you can tell, all the candidates here, they are our heroes. They are willing to stand up for our conservative voice, willing to stand up for our garbage people. We have enough already. The red wave has swept the country. How come it's not creating a wave in California? You're right, the altruism. How are we going to do it? We need to push Congress to pass a SAFE Act. Last year, we pushed that, but Democrat, Chuck Schumer, they tabled that bill. Now, with Trump in charge, with hopefully Rick Scott become our Senate leader, we need to pass SAFE Act. We need to eliminate California's cookie system. It's crooked, I can tell, because there's two issues that's very concern our community. One is equal right, equal opportunity for all students in college admission. All the community, even in the Asian community, I'm helping Elizabeth, I'm helping David, I'm helping April, with all that. Everybody I talk to, they say, wonderful, the Supreme Court make a decision, allow our kids to get into college based on merit, not based on the skin of the color. 90% of our community support that. but how come it's not reflecting it? Something is wrong. We need to set the record straight. We need to streamline it and legalize and make it a national standard. So what David is talking about, SB 1174, should be eliminated, should be declared unconstitutional. We need to do that. We need to urge Trump administration, we need to urge the new Congress, do the right things. Clean up California for us.
I just add that I believe it's critical for California to get rid of the voting machines.
I'm Karen Suter. I'm from La Crescenta. On the graph, differentiating the returns from 2020 to now, can you explain the obvious anomaly between the two?
So I think the graph you're referring to shows the votes on the presidential elections from 2012, 2016, 2020, and then this year, 2024. The anomaly was 2020, where the amount of votes received for the presidential election was about at this level for 2012, 2016, and this year, 2024. 2020 was way spiked up. Many people have been commenting and observing this. And my feeling is that the difference in the spike in 2020 to 2024, going back to the same level as previously in 2012, 2016, is because both the Republican National Committee leadership and the grassroots people across the country noticed this strange anomaly in 2020, and we're watching this year in the election this year. So there's the graph behind us. So where the blue lines are the same for those 3 years, but not 2020, gave the citizens and alerted the Republican Party that they need to be more vigilant for 2024. And because of their vigilance for their vigilance to guard against vote manipulation and voter fraud, the numbers were more what they should be this year. But that was nationwide, and so we celebrate that. We celebrate that President Trump had a fair election and a landslide. And his strategy was too big to rig, so that if there was vote manipulation and voter fraud, the amount of votes, and we saw the red line was way up this year. And so the people, the general voters really came out because the message was, if it's too big to rig, then there will be a true outcome. It will overcome whatever shenanigans would be perpetrated. But California is the anomaly in the country. So whereas the country overall showed regular voter levels as we would expect, California did not. And I feel that this is because there has been a lack of attention to California. So people were being very vigilant in the swing states, and all of those states went to President Trump. But they left California to fend for ourselves. And but I believe that if the National Republican Party will do more prevention, will do more defensive interventions and promote California just and honest elections, that California also would have this pattern. So I call for both the National Republican Party to bring more attention to California in our elections, as well as the California GOP to give more attention to our local LA GOP elections, because we candidates work very hard, but it is the responsibility of the party to look over the election processes on behalf of the candidates as well as the voters. And also, I do commend our California voters, because I believe that you came out. I believe that in our districts here in LA County, Southern California, you did come out to vote for us, because everybody we talked to, and we've been talking to many, many people, were very supportive, and I appreciate that so much. And so, so I'm here today as another act of representing you, that we want your elections to be fair, honest, just, and accountable. So we are here to start a measure of accountability in LA County election procedures. So thank you for bringing up the national pattern that we've seen, because California is different, and because we need to have more vigilant attention over our election procedures. And also these algorithms need to be investigated.
I'd like to add one more thing. There was quite a few of us together on November 5th watching the election. The 14 minutes after California polls closed, they called it for Harris, which is absolutely, totally impossible to do. But they did. We all sat here and watched it. It was 14 minutes exactly, because I checked the clock. After the polls closed here in California, it was called for Harris. So we know that what's going on right now has to be, must be. We have to insist on this being investigated. Thank you.
Just one more thing I want to add. I think that's very important. Every single state that Trump did not win are exactly the same states where there was no requirement for voter ID. Coincidence? I think not.
Hello, my name is Jill Davis, and I live in Pasadena, California. Beth was my state Senate option, and Michelle Martinez, my assembly option, 41. My question relates much to what you've been talking about. It is, why in California are we still tallying the votes why does it take us so long when we're the highest tech, state in the nation? Similar to what Paul Jones is saying, how they called Harris just a few minutes after the elections were closed, but we're still tallying these down ballot races. David, could you speak to that? And then whoever, thank you.
Yes, well, that's, to say the least, it looks very suspicious. It took them 14 minutes to make a decision on that. And for right now, I just checked, it says that we have 32 days left before certification. Seriously. So it's very simple. I think the more time they have, the more shenanigans, as Elizabeth was saying, they can pull. The system is rigged. It's very clear. And it wasn't just the one thing, the 14 minutes, 32 days left before certification. Every single state that Trump wasn't successful there were exactly the same states where no voter ID was needed or was required. So you put all those things together, it's the totality of the circumstances. Clearly, the system, I think the machine is manipulating the election results. It wasn't just one thing, like one after another, to the point seems like it's laughable. Right now, I think what the machine is doing is that they don't even care. Like before, they'll try to hide it. Right now, they're not even hiding it anymore because there's too much to hide. They're not even hiding it. I'm just going to do it. What am I going to do? So obviously, I think that needs to be investigated, by proper authorities, probably the new DOJ under Trump.
And I would say that the mail-in ballot system is a big problem with tallying the votes in a timely manner. I've been into the processing center and I've watched the process, and there's like 12 steps, and it's much of it is so easy to, but once they separate the envelope from the ballot, there's no connection on that ballot with that signature. And when they take those envelopes, there's little holes in the envelopes. They put zip ties through those holes in no particular order, zip tie them together, place them in a cardboard box, cellophane the box, and then ship it into who knows where. They're required to hold on to those, but if you were going to go back and investigate, you could never find those signatures again. And then they have pallets and pallets of boxes and boxes of ballots in the back. And we ask, so when do those get counted? But if we went back to single day voting and people hand counting, it gets done. So there's all of these steps in the processing center. They're not all automated. It's not that they just zip it through a machine. It looks like there's hundreds of people in there, maybe hundreds of hands that these ballots are going through. And there's step by step, but it's still so much of what I looked like. I saw it as like, this is a mess. So the process is so long. And then if it's postmarked by November 5th, it still has how many days? 30 days to be counted. So it is very too long. And as David said, the longer it goes, the more opportunity there is for messing up the process.
Yes, one thing that I found when I visited the ballot processing center is that Californians are under the impression that they're continuously counting. They're trying to get that vote count in. And the truth is that they stop counting every day at about 4:30 p.m. They break it down for the night and they start up again the following morning. So that means that whoever is in charge, they have the ability to calculate how many votes are needed to get the desired result.
There was one other item that we've discovered. There were individuals, the lines were very long because my wife and I visited quite a few of the voting places on that day, and the lines were very long. Then we come to find out there was individuals walking down those long lines with a QR code in their hand telling voters that to scan this QR code, they didn't have to wait in line anymore. That's fraud. We know it. It's being reported. So now the question is, who's going to follow through on this? Because it certainly won't be the California government.
And I would like to remind the audience of one more thing, a new process that's become more and more relevant as we see more of the population moving to vote by mail ballots. It's curing the vote. There are literally tens of thousands of ballots that have not been counted, and every campaign tries to cure the vote. What does that mean? We receive a list from the registrar's office that lets us know which signatures have either not been accepted because the signature does not match or the voter has forgotten to sign the back of the ballot envelope. So the campaigns try to contact the voter by phone, by text, by mail, and actually in person. And the reason for this is because individuals, instead of opting to go in person to vote, are actually using the vote by mail process. And so what we've seen, in addition to your vote not counting and you not being made aware of it until the very last minute, is that it's also creating additional costs to the entire election process. The whole idea of voting is to make it as easy as possible for the voter. And what we've seen with these new policies is that, one, we've isolated an entire group of individuals. We've seen that more and more people do not want to go to the polls because the machines are either acting up or the process is just too confusing to them. And so we've seen success in other states, such as Florida, where they went back to one-day voting with paper ballots, and it was very successful. So as we look to the future and this election, we need to be asking ourselves, are we employing the most successful policies and practices to our election process? And this goes directly to the registrar offices and actually the Secretary of State to review this process and realize that we're costing you, the taxpayers, a lot of money to run each election cycle. And instead of having made it simple and accessible, we've made it more complicated and more expensive.
Good morning. My name is Ron Ahlers. I reside in Montrose, California. On the California ballot this November, there was a proposition to restore punishment for criminal acts. This proposition, number 36, passed by about 70% of the vote. Yet each one of you candidates, you supported Prop 36, and yet each one of you received about 40% of the vote. How do you reconcile this big difference between 70% pro Prop 36 and yet 40% for the candidates that supported it?
I do believe what we're seeing is that there are monies being diverted to these campaigns, such as Prop 36, but they are not referencing the candidates that are supporting them. These are opportunities where the campaigns themselves could be highlighting candidates that are supporting their proposition. In recent years, we've seen that everything about electioning has risen in costs. And so what we see is that for an average candidate to be able to run a successful campaign, especially here in California, requires a minimum of about $2 million. And so not only are we taxing the voter, right? Well, what I mean by that is not the literal tax, but putting a stress on the voter. Every other organization should be providing platforms for candidates to be known by the public have been pulled away. So when we look at media and radio stations, there always used to be debates on the public channels. We don't see those anymore. The public channels, you're paying for those public channels. And so you deserve to be informed with regards to who your candidates are. So I would ask each one of you to take action today. Write a letter to those public stations in your communities and ask, where were the debates? Why are we not seeing side by side the candidates that want to represent you and have them answer the tough questions? So that's another portion of it.
Well, the other explanation is that, between 40% and 70%, the discrepancy is 30%, which is very big. So also coupled with a lot of other abnormalities or irregularities, I do believe that the election, at least in Los Angeles County, I have reasons to believe that was rigged. That's why, there was such a huge discrepancy. Because from a voter's point of view, before they vote, just before they vote for or against a particular candidate, usually what they do, they want to see what their platforms are. We want to see what their what ideas or ideology do those candidates represent. So clearly, all Republican candidates, me included, we are for Proposition 36. Yet, not only that, on average, we got about 40% of the votes. What was more bizarre was that, the percentages were so similar or so close to each other, right? It doesn't make any sense. It doesn't. It was like it was off by 3%, 5%, even 10%, maybe 30%. Come on, seriously. From a statistical point of view, it does not make any sense at all. Also, given the fact that, it took 40 minutes for the governor to say that, Kamala Harris had won and Trump lost for the state of California. And to be frank, in signing the bill SB 1174 into law and all those things, if you look at every single thing, all those abnormalities, irregularities, all together, look at use the approach of totality of circumstances. To be frank, I do believe that, the election, at least in Los Angeles County, I do believe it was rigged. So otherwise, there was no other way to explain all those.
Yes, I think if 70% of the voters are for being tougher on crime, and all of the Republican candidates are also for strengthening our law enforcement and the consequences for crime, then so 70% for yes, we want stronger law enforcement, more consequences for crime, but only 40% across the board Republican candidates. That's very suspicious, and I think that our voters are disappointed. Everyone I speak to, they are shocked. And so there's a strong possibility that these votes are being manipulated after the fact.
Yes, and I want to add, before this election occurred, we actually did a small canvassing, election integrity canvassing effort in our community, in my actual district. And what we found was that 25% of the voters who supposedly had cast ballots were basically ineligible. I will not say fraudulent, but you can make that jump yourself. 25% of the vote. So there's a lot that's going on. As was stated earlier, the mail-in ballots. The reason I believe that they want all of the illegals in this country is that they can take those names that are registered in the DMV registry. Those voters or those illegal immigrants don't actually have to cast a ballot, but the Democrats now have that list of names, and they can actually cast ballots for them. So, thank you.
It does not add up because so there's not only Proposition 36 passed, and also all the left DA also lost their job. We fired them. Over 60% of the people want that. But how come the number does not add up? How come all our candidates, conservative, pro-law enforcement, does not get past the 50% mark? Something is wrong. Something is wrong. For the last 10 years, our California supermajority, they passed 2 laws, motor voter, and they allow people renew driver license without checking their citizenship, they get their ballot. Second, they have ballot harvesting. They allow union people to go to nursing home and collecting ballot and then vote. And most of the seniors, they do not know they voted. And for the last 2 years, with majority, Democrat have a majority In Sacramento, they passed 2 laws. First, they allow nobody should need to apply, and they automatically send out mail ballot. That's 2 years ago. And now all the states, they're saying that we have to cut off all the mail ballot by November 5th. But in California, you could register October 21st. You could still register. But if you do not, no problem. You could get a provisional ballot, and then you could send it out on November 5th and only receive by November 12th. Something is wrong. But look at UCI. They're the 47th district. They get a whole group of UCI students. The Democrat organized them and registered the same day. And they voted the same day. Something's wrong. So I have 3 requests. First of all, I want to push the Congress, pass SAFE Act, streamlining it, get rid of all this progressive voting rule. Second of all, I want the new DOJ investigate all the irregularity happening in California. Everybody here, they're responsible for their voter. We need to make sure all the voting, casting for our Republican candidate counted. The third thing is we want to push for term limit. We want to have a new Congress now. We have the power. We have the vote. Limit the career politician. Make sure if they don't do their job, we fire them.
There are also some tragedies in the fact that I'm already hearing from people who are saying, you know, based upon the way that the voting is going, they're looking at it saying, well, why did I even bother to vote? I'm hearing that a lot. The other tragedy to me is what we're looking at is a supermajority now in Sacramento, which means it's going to make our jobs 10 times tougher to get anything passed that's going to help.
Thank you, Mr. Paul Jones. Thank you, Ms. Michelle. Thank you, Mr. David. Thank you, Ms. Jessica. Thank you, Mr. Daniel. Thank you, Ms. Elizabeth. Thank you, Mr. Paul Jones. And thank everybody who have been asking the questions. We still have those questions. You can just write it on the comment on the social media or in the Facebook or anywhere that gonna help. But let me finalize that with we have to fight for our rights. So we're never going to be silent. That's the message that everybody here is saying that, okay, it looks like 42, 58, the percentage, and that's very weird. If we see all those candidates in the panel, 18 of them, all of them the same percentage, that's something like somebody fixing the machines the right way, maybe, something like this. So we have to fight. And we have the lawyers here, they're gonna fight and we're gonna see what is exactly what we have rights in our hands. Because as Ms. Michelle have been addressing that, we're not here just for themselves, for the position, because thank God they're all successful people. Their life is gonna be more easier, but they was having fighting for us and for our children and for our generation and for California. And they said that we're not gonna fight just for ourselves, but just fighting also for your vote. I give my vote, and it's never count or something like this, something happened on my vote, I will feel very bad about it. So this is the purpose of this press conference. And we will not be silent. If the Democrats thinking that we're gonna be silent, no, we're not gonna be silent. And this is just a start. And we're gonna use all the rights legally, I'm saying that legally. Thank God we have the most smart lawyers here with us, and they know exactly how to do that. In Georgia, comparing Georgia and California, what's going on, what's happening, not because that California is a blue state or they keep label it blue state. No, look back in the history, it was red, and it was a godly state. So we're gonna stand and thank God for the godly people here. We're all gonna pray, and the prayer can move the mountain. Our prayer moved everything toward Trump. Thank God Trump is winning right now, and the House and the Congress and everywhere. So it's gonna be another push, okay? Are you ready for another push? Yes. So thank God for this amazing press conference, and I need to thank everybody who have been putting the effort. And this platform, Thecrosstv, will be your platform. Anytime you need to fight the good fight and the holy fight in the name of Jesus. Thank you, everybody. I'm going to say to you bye-bye right now, but we're looking forward to see more and more, and we're going to update you. Thank you for your comment. Thank you for your support for Thecrosstv, and thank you for your input.